achieved.
Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we're breaking down UFC 160 taking place on May 25th, the main event featuring Cain Velasquez defending his newly won UFC heavyweight title against a man he defeated not that long ago in Antonio Bigfoot Silva. I'll be giving you my 5 main card predictions on this episode. All of my preliminary picks will be available over at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Also on the website, the prediction panel will be doing their picks, and Josh Harper went 12-1 at UFC on FX, and Dylan Collins went 13-0. Both guys did fantastic, and all three of my predictors, along with Estevan and Joe Caporelli, actually back in action too, are taking part in the Kamikaze Overdrive prediction tournament, and I'll talk about that in a second. I went 10-3 at UFC on FX, which was a pretty solid night nonetheless. I took 3 shots with 3 underdogs, none of them hit, but the bet packs were fantastic. Of 13 fights, 12 of them had winning betting information. And I don't just mean like, Jacare paying $1.17 to win. I mean profitable betting information. For example, I gave you 7 prop bets for the event. All 7 of them correct. Multiple winning parlays. My top 5 confidence picks all hit. Actually, no, my top 6 confidence picks all hit. My number 1 and number 2 value bets hit. It was a very, very solid night of fighting. A profitable night for me and for all the people who purchased the bet packs. So please look into buying UFC 160 bet packs. Now, UFC 160 will kick off the Kamikaze Overdrive Prediction Tournament, the Season 2. 32 competitors representing 11 different countries will go head-to-head. The opening round will consist of 2 events, UFC 160 and UFC on Fuel TV 10. The winners will advance on from there, and we'll continue on down the road. You can follow all the action on the Kamikaze Overdrive Prediction page at the website. Now, for those people who have entered, I sent out an email, the first email with the prediction card that you're allowed to predict and send back to me. If you haven't got it, please check your junk mail. Look for your junk mail, through your junk mail, find it, and send a quick reply back saying you do have it, and that way I know who will be getting the emails and who I need to still try and get in touch with. Either way, so make sure you check your junk mail, because I sent it out yesterday. Do it ASAP. Lots of fights to predict and bet on. Let's get to my first prediction. We kick things off in the UFC's lightweight division as Donald Cowboy Cerrone, 19-5-0 with 1 no contest, welcomes former Strikeforce competitor 10-5-0 KJ Noons to the UFC's octagon. Cerrone, coming off a loss against Anthony Pettis, has stopped a 2-fight winning streak, while KJ Noons has dropped back-to-back fights, including a controversial split decision against Ryan Couture. He's only got 1 win in his last 5 appearances. Now, first and foremost, Donald Cerrone's going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage, so he's going to be the bigger fighter and have a little bit of length on his side. Now, looking at Cerrone's past history, he always comes back stronger after a loss. He won 6 in a row after losing to Ben Henderson, back-to-back fights after getting beat by Nate Diaz, and he looked good in those fights, outclassing Jeremy Stevens and stopping Melvin Gillard. Now, for Noons, this is his debut, and that can be tough, but he's a veteran fighter with a lot of experience, and I expect him to cope well. Now, what this is a matchup of is KJ Noons' boxing against Donald Cerrone's Muay Thai. Noons has a significant power edge with 8 knockout wins to Donald Cerrone's 2, but Cerrone's knockout totals are deceiving. He has a lot of power himself. Now, what Noons possesses, excellent good footwork and boxing skills. I think sometimes a little overrated, but they're still very solid. One of the knocks on him, though, is he allows his opponents to land a lot. He averages 3.68 strikes absorbed per minute, which is a high number, especially facing a guy like Donald Cerrone. Now, Cerrone, a big edge he has, 14 wins by submission, which is huge because Noons has had trouble on the ground before. But Cerrone only averages 1.41 takedowns per fight at a 47% clip, so not exactly a dominant wrestling type of fighter. Noons, on the other hand, takedown defense, 73%, very solid, a lot of success there, but we did see Josh Thompson and Jorge Masvidal have a lot of success with the takedowns. They combined in 2 fights for 11 takedowns against KJ Noons, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, looking also at that Masvidal fight, what Jorge had a lot of success with is he used a more diverse striking attack than KJ. KJ relied too much on his boxing, and Masvidal mixed in knees and kicks, and it really did a good job of keeping KJ backing up. As I said, Noons tends to rely too much on his boxing. He needs to diversify, needs to use more kicks against a guy like Donald Cerrone, which could be difficult. Now, Cerrone has had issues in the past with boxers. We saw what Nate Diaz did to him. We saw Melvin Gillard hurt him early in that fight. So by no means is this going to be a runaway for him, because he's, KJ Noons is very capable of getting the job done here. But one thing to keep in mind as well, Cerrone's been seeing a sports psychologist, trying to get his mind right, trying to get himself settled and focused and more prepared and less nervous, and we'll see if that has any impact on this fight. Noons is a tough guy to put away, and that's for sure. We've seen him take a lot of damage, especially in that Masvidal fight, and he keeps coming back. And he has go-away power himself. He can hit a guy and put him away. We saw him have Ryan Couture in trouble a couple of times, so he's very capable. If he can land on Cerrone's chin, potentially putting him out. Now, Cerrone's coming off the first knockout loss of his career. It was by body kicks, which is something I don't expect to see Nunes do with kicks, but he will go to the body with punches, and that's something that Cerrone needs to be very careful of. I think what this fight comes down to is Cerrone will just land more frequently and with a more diverse attack, and we could see him put Nunes on the ground and do some work on the mat. Either way, I think Cerrone just gets a little bit better than the exchanges in all areas of this fight. So my prediction is Donald Cerrone to defeat KJ Nunes by decision. Our next prediction is in the UFC's lightweight division, and it has a potential title shot on the line. It's Gray the Bully Maynard, 12-1-1 with 1-0 contest, takes on 25-0 TJ Grant. Maynard coming off a split decision win over Clay Guida, which was preceded by a 2-fight series with the title on the line against Frankie Edgar. Well, TJ Grant, 4 straight wins, all since moving to lightweight. Now, the first things first, Maynard usually has a size advantage. It won't be in this fight, actually, as TJ Grant's going to have 2 inches of height and 2.5 inches of reach, which is something to take into consideration because Gray Maynard usually bullies guys around, and TJ has a lot of experience fighting bigger men, fighting welterweights, so that should show up when they get in tight. Now, Maynard's also coming off an 11-month layoff, which can be tough for a fighter, especially at 34 years of age. It could be hard to crank things back up. Well, TJ Grant, in that same time, 2 big victories over Evan Dunham and Matt Wyman, has looked impressive doing it. Now, Maynard, NCAA Division I wrestler and a BJJ blue belt, so very talented on the ground, averages 2.59 takedowns at a 48% clip. He landed 3 takedowns against Frankie Edgar, 5 against Kenny Florian, and he uses takedowns to either dictate the pace of a round or to steal a very close round with a late takedown. And for Grant, though, he's a BJJ brown belt with 13 wins by submission. Numbers not quite as impressive, 1.65 takedowns at a 44% clip, still capable. The big thing that stands out for me in the ground exchanges, Gray Maynard, 86% takedown defense, very tough to take him down. Frankie did put him on his back a couple times, but for Grant, only a 37% takedown defense. That's a red flag right there against a guy like Gray Maynard, but I'm going to talk about that because there's a little asterisk beside it. TJ Grant, some of his troubling numbers, Johnny Hendricks put him down 8 times in 8 attempts, and Ricardo Almeida 6 times in 8 attempts. TJ is pretty good at getting back up in those situations, but still the takedowns score points. Since dropping to 155 pounds, though, he's fought 4 times. His opponents have attempted 15 takedown attempts and only landed 4. So he's doing a much better job of shutting down his opponent's takedown attempts using that size. He's gained at 155. He's very good off his back. He's very good at getting back up. And as I said, he's a physical handful for anyone at 155. And we'll have to see how Gray Maynard counters that when he's typically the larger man, but that won't be the case again. Now, on the feet, Maynard has 2 wins by knockout, but he has serious power. We saw him hurt Frankie a couple of times. He's very dangerous with his hands when he can unload. He has decent boxing, but he has a tendency to get a little bit caught up head hunting, and he had a little trouble catching up to Clay Guida and Frankie Edgar when he was looking for the big knockout, especially when he started to slow down just a little bit. Maynard has a solid uppercut, but and good, as I said, good power, but a limited kicking game, which takes away one major weapon when you're fighting a guy who's a little bit faster and can stay out of range. He was outlanded by Frankie in both those fights, and Nate Diaz also outlanded him with his boxing, so Gray needs to make sure he keeps up with TJ in the striking if this fight stays on the feet. Now, Grant has a major edge in strikes landed per minute at 3.81 to 2.05, which is significant, but Maynard has a 73% striking defense, which again tells us he can limit his opponent's strikes landed, and that's significant again if this fight stays standing. Grant's Muay Thai has been lethal, and it's getting better. We saw him bust up Evan Dunham, a very good striker, and he destroyed Matt Wyman, a very durable guy with those lethal short level trajectory elbows. He put him away. It was very impressive with what he did in that fight. He's relaxed. He has excellent timing and focus. He will counter. He does a nice job of catching, deflecting punches, and all around he's just a very solid striker, and he's getting better. If Gray Maynard can use his takedowns to dictate the pace of this fight, it's a huge edge for him, but Grant is tough on the ground regardless, and we'll see how that exchange goes. I like TJ's more diversified attack, his higher work rate, his counter striking, and his clinch striking is very strong. And if he can get the edge with his clinch striking, that could really take away a weapon of Gray Maynard's, who likes to bully guys in close. This is going to be a very close fight, but my prediction is TJ Grant to defeat Gray Maynard by decision. In our third prediction of the night, we move to the UFC's light heavyweight division as Glover Teixeira, 22-0, battles injury replacement James Huna, 18-5-0, and both these guys are looking quite good. Teixeira is 3-0 since moving to the UFC, coming off a decision victory over Rampage Jackson. Well, James Huna has won 4 consecutive fights and is 5-1 overall, his lone loss coming against Alexander Gustafsson since joining up with the Zuffa Run promotion. Now, Huna, as I said, late replacement for Ryan Bader, but he's had lots of time to get ready for this fight, so late replacement, I use that term loosely. For Glover, this is the first time he's faced an opponent who's actually coming off a win in a while, so that tells you maybe he's not facing the highest caliber guys, but still he's looked impressive. Glover is the type of guy who's dangerous both on the ground and on the feet, and that's a very tough situation for anybody who's looking for a place to exploit him. 12 wins by knockout, he's a BJJ black belt, and he's got 5 wins by submission. He's done both inside the UFC's octagon. He has excellent good boxing, changes things up very well, high volume output, really stalks his opponents and keeps in their face, does not give them a break. His ground game, he's got solid takedowns, really likes that single leg and turns the corner effectively, snapping them down and taking them off their feet. Now for James Huna, he showed improvement in both wrestling and boxing. He, by no stretch of the imagination, is a slouch in any department. He has brutal power, he's very aggressive, he throws in high volumes as well, does a lot of work along the cage and tries to overwhelm his opponents, which can be a very effective tool. But he can also fight at a more measured pace, which is impressive as well and can be effective. And it's better for his cardio. He doesn't gas himself out trying to go for the finish unless he sees the opportunity. He has good clinch fighting, excellent little dirty boxing if he gets the opportunity. We saw that against Joey Beltran against the wall, just breaking him down with big-time power. We also saw him use his ground game against guys like Aaron Rosa, against Beltran. Against Ryan Jimmo, he has excellent ground and pound, very brutally strong. And he was holding his own against Alexander Gustafsson when that fight hit the ground. But in all those fights, we've seen him use the ground game. That's something I don't know if he'll have that at his disposal. Teixeira has solid takedown defense, and he's definitely a dangerous man on the mat if Huna can get the fight to the ground in a position to attack. Huna's cardio is questionable if he's pushed. If he can fight at the pace that he's setting, he's fine. As soon as someone starts to push him, that's trouble. He's a very tough individual. We saw him get knocked down by Jimmo and battle back and win that fight. We saw him get hurt against Igor Prokrayets when he broke his arm and still got the knockout, which shows how tough this guy really is. But, toughness doesn't always equate to winning fights. Huna has been submitted 4 times in his career, which is something to take into consideration, but his grappling defense has improved, but this will be a big test and see where he is at. Teixeira overall is the more well-rounded fighter in both areas, and that's something to take into consideration. He's just slightly more skilled and more refined as far as I am concerned based on what I have seen. Huna is going to be a very big test, and a lot of people are writing him off, and I was very close to taking James Huna in this fight, but I just think Glover Teixeira will get the job done here. So my prediction is Glover Teixeira to defeat James Huna, and he's going to do it by submission. We move now to our co-main event prediction of the evening as the former UFC champion, Junior Dos Santos, 15-0, battles the Super Samoan Mark Hunt, 9-7-0. Junior Dos Santos coming off a loss to Cain Velasquez where he dropped his title, while Mark Hunt has won 4 in a row and is actually filling in for an injured Alistair Overeem. He recognizes the potential of this fight to give him a shot at that title if he can get the job done. Now both guys have big knockout numbers with a combined 18 wins by some form of KO or TKO, and they only really need one shot. They both possess that go-away one-punch power. Now Hunt has been knocked out once himself. Junior's never been stopped by knockout, but we saw Cain Velasquez rock him with one big shot. But both have very good chins. Now physically, Junior's got some advantages: 6 inches of height, 3 inches of reach. But Hunt just fought Stefan Struve, so he's fought a lot of taller men in his kickboxing career and his MMA career. He knows what he has to do to fight and make up for that physical disparity. Now strikes landed per minute favors Junior, 5.51 to 3.38, and that's big, especially if Junior's able to pile up the damage. Flipping the table though, Hunt strikes absorbed per minute. It's favoring Mark at 1.88 to 2.78, and that's big in the heavyweight division. The more you can limit your opponents from landing, the least likely they are to knock you out. Now, Junior Dos Santos focuses on speed and movement to really back up his power. We saw him really outclass a very dangerous striker in Shane Carwin because he was faster, get in and get out, do damage without letting Carwin really do much of his own attacking. Now Hunt, he looks for openings. He's very measured and calculated. He doesn't overexert himself. He just gets in there, throws with bombs, but he does it in a manner where he's going to make sure they count. Hunt has an excellent leaping left hook, and he hurt Stefan Struve with it several times. He does a nice job of turning his punches over and sticking them through and slipping past the guard of his opponents. They think they're covered up, and he finds a way to tuck it in there and do damage. And he will also counter when his opponent attacks, and that makes him dangerous, especially when it's a bigger man coming in. He can catch them with that, a big shot when they're moving forward, and it really adds up the damage and the power that goes into it. Now, Dos Santos has big power himself. Frank Mir covered up, and Junior hit him, and he still rocked him right through Frank's guard, which is very impressive. He will wing some big shots and overexert himself a little bit, but he's still very accurate with his striking. He likes to use a jab to the body to set up his head shots, go to the body, and then when his opponent starts covering up, that's when he goes upstairs. He doesn't throw a lot of kicks, but he may use them here with a lack of ground game, a threat of a ground game from his opponent. We did see him go upstairs a couple times against a tired Shane Carwin. We could see him do that here with a significant height advantage. He has a brutal uppercut, which we saw him take out Fabricio Verdum with, and he manages distance very well. And again, that's what was the difference in the Shane Carwin fight, along with his speed. Now, Junior is a BJJ black belt, which is a single win by submission. We have seen him shoot the odd time before. He could shoot as well here and try and take down Hunt, who has an improving grappling game, but still that's his biggest liability. But we have seen him put some offense out against both Stefan Struve and Ben Rothwell. I don't expect him to see him getting the better of Junior on the ground, simply because, Junior's probably not going to shoot and get the fight to the ground, and I don't see Hunt taking Junior down, because Junior has excellent takedown defense, unless you're Cain Velasquez at least. Now, the cardio could be an issue. We saw Junior gas against Cain, and he slowed down during the Nelson fight, but Hunt's not the type of guy to push the pace. On the other side of things, Hunt will slow down. We saw him slow down against Struve. He's still dangerous, but he's not nearly as effective. If he's forced to exert himself, he could be in trouble here in the later stages of this fight. Hunt will enjoy the lack of a real ground threat, and the fact that this is going to be a striking-based battle, but so is Junior Dos Santos. The speed's going to show up. He needs to be careful not to underestimate Hunt's power. And just typically I like to take heavyweights by some kind of finish, but I think it's not. I think we're going to go to the distance in this fight. The speed will be the difference. Hunt's going to get the worst of it, so my prediction is Junior Dos Santos to defeat Mark Hunt by decision. It's now time for our main event prediction, and the UFC's heavyweight championship will be on the line as the now two-time champion and newly crowned champion Cain Velasquez, 11-1-0, battles Antonio Bigfoot Silva, the challenger, 18-4-0. Cain is coming off back-to-back wins, winning the title against Junior Dos Santos in his last fight, and previous to that a TKO, first-round TKO over the very same Antonio Silva. Well, Antonio Silva, back-to-back wins, upset wins over Travis Brown by TKO and Alistair Overeem by KO. Upset wins, I called them both, including the win over Alistair Overeem. But we're going to get to my reasoning and for that in a second. Now, looking at these two fighters, how they match up, Bigfoot Silva is, in most cases, is going to have a size advantage. 3 inches of height on Cain Velasquez, and he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage, and Cain needs to be very careful as he does not need to get popped coming in. As Antonio Silva has significant power, 13 of his 18 wins have come by knockout, and Cain Velasquez, he was knocked out by Junior for his lone loss. We also saw when he was trying to close the distance against Czech Congo, Congo would sit down, and Congo rocked him several times, and that's the thing, you cannot afford to allow Antonio Bigfoot Silva to tee off. Now, Cain Velasquez, NCAA Division I wrestler, fantastic cardio, and that goes hand in hand. He averages 6.61 takedowns per 15-minute fight at a 52% clip. Even more impressive, an 88% takedown defense. He gets on top of guys and he goes, and that's what happened in the last fight against Antonio Silva. He got on top, he was relentless, he finished in fine fashion. The fight only lasted a grand total of 3 minutes and 36 seconds, and it was a one-sided affair. But Antonio Bigfoot Silva, if you look at that fight, what it basically came down to was Silva's debut, which is tough. Secondly, he threw a kick and slip, and that gave Cain the opportunity to get on top. And almost immediately, Bigfoot was cut and bleeding, and trying to defend against Cain Velasquez on top of you under normal circumstances is difficult. When you're gushing blood and overwhelmed right from the start, and still not feeling even warmed up, for the fight, it's tough. So I don't want to take away from Cain's victory, but things just fell in his favor in that matchup, and it was a very difficult hand that Antonio Silva was dealt right away. I don't expect this fight to be nearly as easy for Cain Velasquez. That's if I'm picking Cain Velasquez. We haven't got to that point yet. Now, Antonio Silva, this guy's a decorated fighter, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a black belt in Judo, and a black belt in Karate. He's dangerous. His knockout power is a huge factor in fights if he can land. Now, the one thing with Antonio Silva, he doesn't have the output numbers that Cain has, 2.76 strikes landed per minute against Cain at 6.21. Antonio Silva can fight fights both on the feet and on the ground. Both Cain can as well. I think Antonio Silva, though, needs to keep this fight standing and avoid going to the ground with Cain Velasquez. But at the same time, if he can put Cain on his back, that might not be a spot Velasquez is comfortable with, especially the big man on top. Now, we have seen Antonio Silva face a number of guys that were smaller than him, and he's had success in beating Fedor Emelianenko, beating Mike Kyle's another guy to take into consideration. But you look at those fights, the opening round against Fedor was a tough one for Antonio Silva. Same with Mike Kyle. Kyle hurt him. And you go to that Daniel Cormier fight and the Cain Velasquez, the first one. Speed was the issue. These guys are a little bit smaller. They were able to outwork Antonio Silva, use that speed and get the better of him. In the Fedor fight and in the Mike Kyle fight, what the turning point was when he was able to ground them, get on top, take away that speed edge, and completely control them. And that's what he needs to do against Cain Velasquez, but it's going to be difficult. You go to that Alistair Overeem fight, The first 2 rounds were won by Alistair Overeem very clearly, but when he started to slow down and wasn't able to out-quick Bigfoot and became a slower target, that's when the big man teed off and landed those big shots and put him away. I don't foresee that happening. I expect to see Cain looking for singles, doubles. He's got excellent takedowns, put guys on top. He outworks guys and keeps coming forward. And I think, we've seen Fabricio Verdum put Bigfoot on his back, and he didn't like it there. We saw what Daniel Cormier was able to do with his speed against Antonio Silva. And Bigfoot's got a lot of momentum coming into this, a lot of confidence, but you're stepping in the cage with a guy who not even that long ago, basically almost a year ago, a year ago minus 1 day, or plus a day, destroyed you in the first round. That's got to play a factor. Cain Velasquez, this is the second time he's had the title. This will be his second attempt at defending it. He's 0 for 1 so far. I think he'll be motivated. So my prediction is Cain Velasquez to defeat Antonio Bigfoot Silva, and he's going to do it by TKO. So those are my 5 main card predictions for UFC 160. All of my preliminary picks will be available over at kamikazeoverdrive.net, along with my bet packs, which have been on fire of late. So please spend the $10, buy the bet pack, and hopefully put some extra money in your pocket at UFC 160. The panel predictions will also be available. Those guys have been doing well. They were combined 25-1 at the last event. And Ed Fidel will also be submitting his picks. All of my predictors are in the Kamikaze Overdrive Prediction Tournament. As I said again, if you have not received your email, I sent it on the 19th of May. Check your junk mail. Send me a quick email back saying you got it. Picks are due for the first event just before the event starts, just before it kicks off on Saturday. Please get them in when you can, though, but no rush. And I wish best of luck to all the competitors. I'm in the tournament as well. I'm looking forward to this summer of MMA. It's going to be a fantastic one. Thank you very much, as always, for listening. Kamikaze Overdrive, MMA Predictions.